A lot of people are finding that things that were already pretty challenging, like illness and pre-existing conditions, aging, mental health problems, are all exacerbated because of the pandemic. There's the additional fear of what happens if I become ill. What is that going to look like? And anecdotally, a lot of things that they're hearing are also pretty scary. So it all comes to, how do you soothe those anxieties? And how are people seeing what is happening right now, and recognizing that there is an element of sadness, an element of loss, an element of grief, an element of, learning to cope with this new world. And that looks a lot like the sort of grief that people experience. I recommend things like self-care activities, like simple things like going outside daily. And in the Chicago area, we've had this wonderful weather into November, so that's made it a lot easier. Even for someone in a wheelchair or someone who needs a scooter to go outside, to be able to come to a park or someplace like that. It's brightens your mood. It helps with feelings of anxiety and depression, and we know that things like sunshine and vitamin D and all of that help serotonin levels, help improve mood. So continuing to reinforce the importance of doing self-care things. I think the big takeaway from some of this is that, especially when you're working with people who have mental illnesses, and that's many of us, and it's not people out there, right? So recognizing that holding on to anything that needs to be done perfectly is probably, it's a good time to let go of some of those. Some things will get done, but perhaps not as well as they might have gotten done at a different time. And recognizing that, ultimately people have been kind to one another. And like the example of the gentleman who's been reaching out to friends from 30 years ago. And in groups, when we see someone calling another participant after the group to say, hey, you seemed particularly sad. Are you doing okay? Do you want to go for a walk? And they have been doing that. So that's really, people who might otherwise not become friends. Now all of a sudden there's this sense that we're all in this together and we all have to be kind to each other.